pit stop is vital to every race team's success. Pull off the track, let your team go to work.
Outside, clear.
Change all 4 tires, fill the fuel cell, and make needed adjustments, all in 8 seconds or less.
How does a multi-billion-dollar television network and a multi-million-dollar racing series lose control of their nationwide live television broadcast for 15 minutes? We'll talk about that today. On a brighter note, what does an $80 million museum renovation look like? It's going to be very exciting next week. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum opening back up to the public after almost a year and a half of closure. Hey, this is the Pits Are Open, brought to you by Speed Sport and also our friends at Redline Ace, your Speed Sport, your one-stop shop for anything automotive, news, racing, video, Speed Sport TV, Speed Sport One, and you're also your one-stop shopping place for graphics, all kinds of graphics for motorsports in Redline Ace. I want to welcome you if you're watching on TikTok today or Facebook or YouTube. Please, on any channel, like, comment, share, and especially on YouTube, would you please subscribe? It's free. It helps us a lot. Thank you very much. Alex, our producer, Alex Smith, joining us. Alex,
how's it going?
Had a pretty, I don't know, like exciting. I don't know if I call it exciting. I didn't watch a lot of it, but a good Formula One race for McLaren.
Yeah. I mean, they closed out the front row qualifying and finished the same way.
Yeah.
And then after the race, 3 disqualifications. 2 for underweight and 1 for excessive skid plate wear.
Yeah.
And Leclerc, I mean, it didn't matter because he got disqualified anyway, but he did the whole race with most of his front wing missing.
Yikes. Well, I mean, it was a good weekend for McLaren. They locked out the front row on the Formula One race. They locked out the front row in IndyCar race. Disappointing that they ended up not winning. Alex Palou took the prize there. But again, we'll talk with today our guest Tony Donahue, a longtime IndyCar personality and podcaster, will be on with us. Excuse me, we didn't hit the cough button there. Some of the remnants of the cold last week. And then I'm so excited to tell you that we're going to have on live from Indianapolis the Vice President of Curation and Education, Jason Van Sickle, to talk about the reopening. I'm so excited about this. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, one of the best museums in the country, now even better. And we'll get information about that as well. Please check out our website, pitsareopen.com. It'll always have latest episode of podcasts that you can listen to. All the episodes are there. Also have a preview each week of the coming show and prior guests that we've had. Some good information. Most importantly, on the top of the homepage, there's a banner, and you can sign up for our weekly newsletter, oddly enough called The Pits Are Open. And we won't bombard you, but it's a great piece of work, I think. I am biased. I do work here. But it'll have racing news, current racing news, courtesy of our friends at Speed Sport, and then also a preview of the show. And, there's an opportunity for you there. You can order our book. Oh, did I tell you? Spirit of Speedway, the greatest children's book ever written about people's ambitions to the big race. This is, of course, the ambitions of a little car who was born in Speedway. Speedway is his name. And written by Mark Dill, a prolific writer and used to be communications director at the track. Mary Lynn Smith is a upcoming but very good inspirational artist, and she did all of the illustrations, and created by none others than yours truly. My idea for the book and the storyline, and wrote it really, and I'm so excited. I heard a story just the other day about this. We really wrote this book so that little kids can fall in love with IndyCar racing the way I did when I was a little kid. And this book is aimed to do that. But it's also a reading aid because it was written at a 3rd grade level. This is a great way for you to spend time with your kids, your grandkids, as you're going through the book with them. And it's loaded with fast facts on the track and drivers and the race and all kinds of things. So please go to Amazon, get the durable hard copy. I didn't get it today. Yeah, I was watching some of the F1 race. I have to say I was happy for McLaren. I've always liked McLaren. I've always liked McLaren because of Bruce McLaren, the founder, and I grew up loving IndyCar in the late '60s, early '70s, and McLaren was so dominant in those early years. Peter Revson, I remember quite well, was I think he won the pole one year. Mark Donohue won Roger Penske's first 500-mile victory in a McLaren. Other people drove McLaren cars, people like David Hobbs, and it was a very unique car. It was a great brand. And then they went away. They went away from IndyCar for a long, long time. Came back, and they brought Fernando Alonso with them, and that was it was not a great experiment, it seemed. And I think that's kind of where they got the fire to come back and get involved full time when Alonso failed to make the event. So I've had a long history with McLaren, but I have to say I'm more probably fascinated with the Formula One brand than the IndyCar brand right now, and we'll talk about that a little later when we have our guest on. Also, what else did I want to tell you? I wanted to tell you that you can always listen to the podcast. We take this, we turn it into a podcast that drops on Thursdays, and our primary place for the podcast is Spotify. But anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find it. And the podcast is exactly the same as the show, just absent the video. So we hope that you'll find us on the podcast. Hope that you'll watch as you are today on YouTube, on TikTok. I don't know how our TikTok viewership. Are we back in line with TikTok, or did they flag us for something else they're mad at us about? I don't know what happened. Can you tell, Alex, if we're on TikTok right now?
Dan also he brought up the point Yuki Tsunoda is going to be replacing Lawson for Red Bull this weekend.
Yeah, so Lawson's not off to a good start, and I've been hearing the story, and I don't know if I'm sure you have heard that the Red Bull car apparently is designed around the driving style of Max Verstappen. And it's a hard car to drive. It's a very difficult car to drive, and it's set up for Max, and he's got a very unique style. And Liam, for better or worse, just hadn't seemed to be handling it very well.
You have to be very bold to drive like Max does. He puts himself in some dangerous situations.
Yeah.
And that car is made for late braking. So
he reminds me of he reminds me of Ayrton Senna. Senna had a very similar aggressive, if there was a gap, Senna was going to find it. And sometimes it didn't work out that well. He had a lot of contact, had a lot of cars, but he was one of the great ones, And so, I'm reminded of Senna from Verstappen. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's see. I think he's out there, right? Joining us now, a well-known voice in Indianapolis media, but radio broadcaster, sports for many years, broadcasts many, many college and high school games live, and has his own podcast, the Tony D Podcast. First time, this is an honor. First time we're having a repeat guest. We've not had a guest on twice since we started the show 7 weeks ago. So let's welcome Tony Donohue. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Will. Thanks for having me on again.
Good to have you on. Thank you for accepting the challenge. Let's start out with thermal. What was your take on thermal in terms of quality of racing and what took place there?
There's so many different angles that you could take it, right? Fans want more races, and then they complain about thermal, and they complain that they can't get in, and it's too expensive, and the racing wasn't all that good. I think that the racing can be better, and I think the folks at Thermal know that. They've mentioned that they're willing to add a straightaway. They're willing to configure their racetrack for IndyCar. I think anybody who went to that race over the weekend has no complaints. I was there last year, really enjoyed it, really enjoyed being there. Logistically, it's not the easiest place to get there, especially when your core audience is right here inside of 465 in Indianapolis. But I thought the battle with Longard and Palou was good. I thought Palou racing that 24-second deficit in that final stint to win the race was absolutely incredible. I mean, this guy's got an average finish of 4.7 in his last 7 races, going back to the end of the 2022 season when he won at Laguna Seca. So, look, the TV blackout, I know we're going to talk about that. I guess things happen. They're going to get to the bottom of that. I would like to know, did it have anything to do with the fact that you're out in the middle of nowhere? It was very warm in California, Southern California, the desert, over the weekend. So, I want to know why it happened and the factors that went into allowing it to happen, because no matter what, it wasn't a good look, especially to the fans that are kind of on the fence about thermal. They're going, well,
right.
The All-Star race last year, the $1 Million Challenge, whatever that was, didn't really make a lot of sense, didn't really go the way it should have. The winner didn't even get $1 million.
No.
A lot of the teams and the crews, I think the teams and the crews get sick of 4 trips out to the West Coast a year. You need to kind of push that together. Well, you and I talked about this, I think, when we had lunch a few weeks ago. Everybody's talking about cost saving and having a car where you go and you're in cost saving mode. But how about just having your West Coast road swing where you're not having to come back and forth. So overall, I thought it was an okay weekend. When the TV blacks out and everything shuts down, it's not a good look, regardless of whose fault it was, why it happened. They cut the NASCAR, which I thought was quick thinking on their hands. But I think the fan that already doesn't like thermal because of it being this kind of private feel of a group, I think the average fan kind of decided at that point, regardless of whose fault it was, that they were done with thermal. So they're going to have to do a lot to win some fans back. That's for sure.
Well, what about, you mentioned the fans that are on the fence about thermal. What about the fans that are on the fence about Fox? There's still not everybody sold on Fox yet. And I've got some minor complaints about it. I won't even talk about because they are minor. I think overall the coverage has been good. But that blackout wasn't thermal's fault. I mean, and it wasn't, you maybe could blame it on the temperature, but that was a trip, circuit breaker, apparently in a fairly new, if not brand new truck that IndyCar supplied to Fox.
Yeah, so the truck, which I believe was from IMS Productions, they kind of rebuilt in the off season when Fox came in, because Fox had some things that they wanted to make adjustments to. So they did that to accommodate them. Now, look, I talked to somebody who's been involved in these things for years, and motorsports is one of the most complicated forms of putting on a broadcast, putting on a telecast, from different cameras to different angles with, microphones, those type of things. With that being said, no, you're right. There's a lot of fans that are still, okay, is Will Buxton going to be the guy? Do we like Will Buxton? They had some graphic issues week 1 at St. Pete. They had some graphic issues in qualifying and in the morning, mostly the morning warm-up practice on Saturday. With that being said, I thought Fox did a pretty okay job as a bounce back. Will Buxton will grow on most people. Townsend's good. James Hinchcliffe's incredible.
Jack Harvey was better, I thought.
Yeah, I think, and I like Jack a great deal.
I do too.
I was seeing this weekend where Jack is best is calling a pit stop and what's happening. Why did you take that turn of wing out? Why did you do this? What made you do that? And then getting into an interview with a driver that is fresh out of a cockpit that just won't do something that they didn't want to, right? Because they know that Jack has been in that situation before. They know that Jack knows exactly what they're feeling. If some schmuck like me walks up and I'm like, hey, they're less likely to give me the full details and the full reasons, because they know that I don't know what they've been going through. And on the flip side of that, Jack Harvey certainly has. Yeah,
I just felt like he, by his demeanor, he seemed more confident. Mm-hmm. He seemed less nervous, which is should. I just enjoy Jack. I like Jack. I like watching him. I think he's doing a great job. I don't know what they're going to do Memorial Day weekend when he's going to be in a car. I'm going to have to get somebody to come out there and help.
Well, there are a few options out there, but I think, if you could use Jack as your in-race reporter that they do a lot in NASCAR and check in with him during yellows and kind of maybe go behind the scenes, that gives Brian Reinbold some extra pub during the race. That gives their sponsors some extra play. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that you can do. And there's other drivers floating around out there, trust me, that I think might get a sniff to join Fox for the month of May.
Yeah, I agree. I thought, Alex Palou was lights out. I was like, I couldn't. I mean, first of all, you have to say, if anything, it was tire strategy. Mm-hmm. Ganassi had a better tire strategy than McLaren did, and for them to come in so late and put the brand new sticker reds on, which were super grippy, and you could just see him. He was driving through everybody. But what I didn't understand, and I don't know if you saw this, but after the race, I don't understand why in the world Pato O'Ward was dumping on all the other Chevy teams, like it's their fault that he didn't win the race, or and he said, well, you know what, Alex, do we have that video? Tony, let's watch this video first. This was the interview with Alex after the race.
But it sucks to be the leader. And all of our Chevy affiliate teams are worthless with helping when a Chevy leader is coming up on them. And Honda seemed to work as a team very, very well, because Foster was doing everything in his power to keep me behind, and then just Palou gets right behind him and he just lets him cruise by. So I still think Palou would have gotten us sooner or later, but obviously that just makes it a bit more of an annoyance rather than a joy.
So, I have to, I just out of the box, I have a bias against Pato. I'm not a Pato fan. I never have been. But you would have thought he learned that lesson well at Indianapolis last year. It's hard to be the leader. I mean, to lose the race on the second half of the lap because Joseph Newgarden goes on the outside in turn 3. I mean, that's a pretty tough pill to swallow. But I don't know how you think, even if it's true, and I don't think that it's true, but even if it's true that the Honda drivers work better than the Chevrolet drivers together, why would you say it? Why? I mean, it doesn't help you with your colleagues.
Well, there's something that you could, if you want to read between the lines there, and what he mentioned, that might foreshadow what we could see manufacturer-wise at the end of the season. As we know, it looks like more than likely Andretti is going to make the jump over to Chevy, which would probably tell you that it's going to have, the engines are going to have to be evened out somehow. So maybe there's a swap there. To his point, he's been talking about this for years. He's been talking about lap cars not getting out of the way. I think,
but Honda's too, though, not just Chevy lap cars. Honda, he's had, that's been his number one complaint from day one, is lap traffic. But everybody deals with lap traffic, right? I mean, that they don't say, "Oh, Pato's coming, let's go slower." I don't.
Well, I mean, he's been complaining about this. He did it last year at Mid-Ohio when he won the race. That drivers like Stingray Robb that continue to get brought up that are in the back of the field. And yes, you're allowed to battle to stay on the lead lap. That is the absolute rule. Sure. And I think Pato got to a situation on Sunday where he decided, you know what, enough is enough. I keep talking about it. We have to help each other out. I mean, you say that like, hey, the favor will come back around to you, but I just don't see any time in the near future where Stingray Robb's leading a race late and needs a lapper to get out of the way. But I see where Pato's coming from.
He led at Indy last year. Don't forget. Stingray led at Indy last year for
so, I think he has a good gripe because he's been discussing this 2 or 3 years now. We've heard this out of Pato O'Ward.
Well, I don't know that this is true, Tony. We're talking with Tony Donahue from Indianapolis, oddly enough. But the only 300s I've been involved with were all with Honda engine teams. 2 with Schmidt, 1 with Coyne and Sullivan, Vassar Sullivan. And I've always heard, and I've always been told, that the Honda teams actually work, the Chevrolet teams actually work better together than the Honda teams. But again, I've had no Chevrolet experience. I don't know, so I don't know exactly. Again, I just don't think, it's helpful for you as a driver to call your other teams worthless.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't think Chevy. I think Chevy probably didn't like that. I mean, I get the frustration. I understand. Yeah, and he even admitted that he doesn't think that it played into a role of him not winning that race. No. But with that being said, it probably not a good look. But again, I mean. Maybe we hear something over the next couple of months.
It's a good point. It very well could be. I'm not convinced that Honda's staying around after 26, quite frankly. I don't have a high level of confidence that we're going to keep Honda after 26 when they jump in both feet of Formula One.
but hey, at least we got the hybrid going and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to make the cars heavier and to try to keep Honda around. So I'm probably with you in that boat for sure.
All right, let's go to something that came out last week. And I first heard about it from your friend David Land. I want to give credit where credit is due. We had an article last week. Aaron Brown, Indy Star came out with, and quoting Chip Ganassi. And I got to tell you, I am 1,000% in the Chip Ganassi camp. Why do we even? And not that he's saying it's a bad thing, but can anyone articulate why we need a new car?
Well, I mean, I think you look around at different series continuing to get new cars. Formula One, NASCAR, IMSA, IndyCar has a car that was first developed in 2011 and then first on track in 2012. So we're 13 years into this car. You've tweaked it enough. I think it could attract another engine manufacturer. I think it could attract more, maybe a new team, maybe somebody to come in and buy a team. And there's a couple teams up and down the paddock right now who are fielding offers. The problem is if I'm coming in as a car owner that wants to be a part of IndyCar, I'm not coming in until we have a new car, because I'm not going to buy into a team and 2 years later, all the cars that I just bought are show cars for the Big Ten tournament that comes to town every year. So, I think you need one. It needs to be sexier. It needs to be faster, louder. I want to hear, I want it to be louder. I want it to scream at me when I hear it coming down the straightaway at Indy. So I think that would maybe even bring in a new, you look at IMSA and those cars are constantly changing and they almost look futuristic, and NASCAR's on, their third or fourth generation type of car over the last 10 or 15 years. And IndyCar's just kind of sat dormant with what they've had since 2012. Yeah, they put lipstick on a pig with all of the whatever you want to call it they put on in 2017 and 2018, and they look like they look like boats out there with the back bumper on it. So I think it's about time that IndyCar gets himself a new car.
All right. I mean, do you think the fans are really? Do you think the fans are really that focused on the car? Or do you think they're focused on the quality of the competition? Because I'd rather see them open up regulations. I'd rather see the teams have more ability to make changes other than the dampers, which is really all we can do right now is dampers and springs.
Well, I think having open competition and you can kind of show up and do your, whether it's shocks, whether it's ride height, whatever it is, to make it to where what Honda has may be different than Chevy, and what Andretti has could be different than what Penske has. Those type of things, just kind of opening it up to, having something different and having, like you said, that competition. Right back in the day, you had, this guy had this part, and that's what propelled him there. So, I think it is needed. And we'll see what it looks like here over the next couple of years, 27, 28, 29, whatever year it is. I still don't think we have an exact date on it, but I think it'll certainly be warranted.
I think it's possible, and I hope that they don't do this, but the few pictures that snuck out that I saw, I hope, I think it's possible for them to come out with a car that could please the fans. Mm-hmm. But I think it's very possible and way more detrimental if they come out with a car that the fans hate.
But that's IndyCar fans, man. They're never going to be happy. They're never going to be fully satisfied. Yeah. They're going to get a new car, which is what they want, and they're still going to complain that it doesn't look right, or it's too futuristic, or they should have done this, they should have done that. Like I said, safety obviously is number one priority. Speed. I want to hear it. I want to hear this thing roar going down the straightaway. And then you get yourself back to the point where you should be breaking the track record at Indy. But to your point, which is a great point, we talk about the competition level in IndyCar, and we hear so many different times, Will, that, it's the most competitive racing sport in the world. But Alex Palou's won 3 of the last 4 championships. Joseph Newgarden's won the last 2 Indianapolis 500s. The only team outside of Andretti, McLaren, Ganassi, and Penske to win a race was a one-off Christian Lundgaard at Toronto a few years ago. Obviously, Meyer Shank had their Indianapolis 500 won in 2021. But it's dominated by about 3 or 4 drivers. And David Land and I had this argument on the show last week. I said there's probably 10 to 12 drivers going into the month of May that I feel have a chance to win the Indianapolis 500. Now on race morning, usually probably even Sunday night after qualifying, but certainly race morning, I could narrow that down to 6 to 7. And he said there's no more than 5, which there's an argument for that too. So, over 500 miles, we know anything can happen. Pit strategy.
Well, it's a long time. But I just wonder though, really, I mean, we saw that exchange between Christian Lundgaard and Palou. I mean, that was the best racing we've seen in a while. It's unfortunate though that it's so isolated.
Yeah.
Those types of things are sorry. And then you see Palou making this incredible charge and passes Pato for the win. I mean, the last part of that race was like fantastic. I don't even know we missed anything when the blackout happened, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was great what Palou was doing, but if Palou didn't do that and he ended up staying in third, we were talking about how boring of a race that is. And we got some side-by-side between Lundgaard and Palou, and there was 225 passes. But I don't know about you, Will. It doesn't really get me too excited when you have, the 17th place guy passing for position on the 16th place driver. That really doesn't do anything for me. So I do think this is 2 straight races now that we've pretty much gone green the whole way. Yeah, there was the yellow on lap 1 of St. Pete, but it was green the entire way. And you could talk about tire degradation and strategies and Lundgaard and Palou going back and forth for about, I don't know, 300 yards. But at the end of the day, I think the average fan looked at that and thought that was a dud on Sunday, especially when Palou is third the entire race and ends up winning on that last stint by like 10 plus seconds.
Yeah. Well, we definitely have a problem on our hands. There's no question about it. And I guess the argument is, or the discussion is, how do you fix it? I don't know if a new car fixes it, because, people are short term, right? So the new car comes out and, ooh, it's so nice. And then it performs like the old car. I mean, that's why they're talking now in Formula One. I don't think they're going to do it, but they're talking now about coming back to V10s.
Yeah.
Because, and you've probably seen where they do the comparison videos. Here's a V12. Here's a V10. Here's a V6.
Yep.
I mean, I love it too. I mean, I love the old sound and it was, I grew up in that time,
Sound, speed, sexiness, be able to show like, hey, this is a really awesome car, and here's why. And the most daredevil drivers are strapping themselves into it. There is an argument to be said, like, are we too safe in IndyCar, which sounds crazy, but, there was a level of these guys are on a different level than the average human being, because what they do, and they still are.
Yeah.
But if we're going to have this safe car that we have, and we're going to have, drivers walking away from these spectacular accidents, why aren't we pushing the limits more to break a track record at
Indy? The speed is what has to happen. And there's no reason we can't. But I mean, you want to question, do they safety and driver safety, and do they get hurt? All you have to do is ask Simon Pagenaud. I mean, that was like one of the most vicious accidents I've ever seen, and still to this day, right? I mean, it's just brutal. Test on Thursday. You going to be there?
Yeah, we're going to go there tomorrow.
Good.
We'll check it out. Only a couple drivers. Palou, the Hunko stable, and then Jacob Abel, who's testing today.
Foyt's going to be here, I think. I read Foyt's coming out.
Yeah, Santino will be there, so we'll talk to him. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to checking out the museum opening next week. I know you got Jason Van Sickle, my buddy, on coming up after this. So there's going to be some really cool Penske things that are like once in a lifetime to be able to see, under the same roof. So I'm certainly looking forward to checking that out early next week. And
I'm hoping we can connect next week. I'm coming out for the Wednesday
there, which is my first 500, and the 88 car will be in there, which was the year I was born. So I'm looking forward to checking out the renovations. I've heard a lot about it, and I'm excited to be able to go in and check it out firsthand.
Alex, he was born in 88. When were you born? 98. I won't even tell you when I was born. It's embarrassing at this point. So anyway, hey, Tony, thank you so much for taking time. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yep.
And I hope you have a good time at qualifying tomorrow. Do a lot of social media posts so we can stay up on it.
Yep, we will. And, if you get a chance, check out our show on Verified. We're rolling every Tuesday night at 8:00 Eastern time on YouTube, and we'll look forward to seeing some cars on track tomorrow. Hopefully the rain stays away.
All right. Sounds great. Tony Donahue, everybody. Tony D Podcast. Tony, thanks so much.
Thanks, Will. Enjoy the day.
See you soon. All right. We're going to take a quick break. got a little racing action for you for the weekend coming up with Speed Sport. And then we'll shift gears and talk museum. Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum opening up in first time in I think like 17 months. Pretty exciting. Can't wait to talk about it. And Jason Van Sickle will be our guest from the museum. Stay with us.
As the weather gets warmer, the action is getting hotter on Speed Sport 1. This Sunday, we'll have live action with the NOLA Speed Tour from NOLA Motorsports Park. Starting at 10 a.m. Eastern, catch the Leger JS F4 Series, F4 United States Championship, and Formula Regional America. On Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll have a new episode of Prime Cuts. This week is the Comp Cam Super Dirt Series from Springfield Raceway. It's all free to watch. Speed Sport 1, the live racing network.
He is? Okay. Hey, welcome back, everybody. I got to tell you, I've told people this for so long, and it's true. There's two places on planet Earth when I go to, I feel like I'm being transported back to my childhood. And those two places are Fenway Park in Boston, and the other is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and in particularly the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. I first went there in 1982. I've gone numerous times. I would say but the last 10 years, I've gone many times during the course of a year. Every time I've been in Indianapolis, I've gone to the museum for the last at least 10 years. And then November of 2023, I was there for the last day, and they were closing it. And I got to tell you, it's been hard. The few times I've been back to Indianapolis since then, I feel myself wanting to pull in, and it's like there's nothing to pull into, right? I've been so antsy about it. Well, our long winter wait is over, and this Wednesday it's going to be reopening to the public, and I'm so excited to have on the Vice President of Curation and Education. That has a ring to it. He's been with the museum a long time. I think he started as an intern in college. I think it's been that long. We're so happy to welcome from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, Jason Van Sickle. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Will, how you doing?
Good. It's so good to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, you guys must be pulling your hair out, trying to get ready for next week, huh?
Yeah, obviously, it's the last few days before our donor preview come Monday, and then obviously the following day, providing our members a first look at the renovated museum, and then public opening a week from today. So it's exciting. Obviously, there's a lot, not a lot to do, but some of the final touches, and looking forward to next week so we can bring people in.
So, as a fan for many decades, what do we have to expect? What's going to be the biggest for those of us who've been going for years and years and years? What's going to be the biggest? Like, wow, that's different. What are we going to see?
So the outside of the building, because it's historic, it's the second oldest building inside the Oval behind the hospital. We did some slight modifications to that. But really, once you walk inside those doors, you really won't have a bearing on where you are if you remember it how it was pre-2023 when you mentioned it closed in November. So it's hard to even give a reference point in a way, and that I know is a scary thing. We have put a lot of thought into how we tell the story of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and obviously how we display the artifacts, whether they be the vehicles that people cherish or the non-vehicle collection that we have. And I think one of the big things I hope people take away with is not only how we display the objects, which is top notch in a way that we could never do in the past. The other thing is really how we tell that story of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's history, and really from its beginning in 1909 until today, which was also another area that we were really lacking when it came to the old museum. So there's a mix of the artifact display. There's a mix of interactivity, hands-on learning. There's a mix of kind of experiential areas, whether it be the starting line gallery or in the race. And then obviously the addition of the Penske Gallery that Tony mentioned a little bit, that's something new for us to have an area that will showcase some of Team Penske's and Roger's personal collection when it comes to their time here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Now that was moved up a couple of years ago, right? I heard talk that some of the Penske collection was being moved up to Indianapolis as much as 2 years ago, put into storage. Are those some of those cars that were already in town but hidden away? Are those some of the cars that we're going to see?
Well, they are cars from their collection. I don't really know where they were storing them, if they were here in Indianapolis, or they have
Mm.
a museum in Scottsdale, Arizona. They have a restoration location in Detroit, and obviously their racing headquarters in Mooresville, North Carolina. So my understanding is their cars have been around in different areas, but it is nice. Obviously, they've been great partners of ours even before the acquisition of the Speedway in 2020, with loaning vehicles for the various different exhibitions we have. So it is nice to have that addition to what the museum has put together with the overall package.
Will there be more NASCAR representation
There
than
will
we've
be.
seen in the past? Okay.
Yeah, so we have when we open, we have a permanent and a temporary option for guests when they come through the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. So in the mezzanine, which is a new 6,000 square feet display area that is new construction inside the building, that mezzanine will highlight various different artifacts via the display cases and things like that. The NASCAR portion has a pretty large footprint in that mezzanine. And when we open, we'll have Kyle Larson's 2024 Brickyard 400 winning suit.
Wow.
We'll have the Brickyard 400 trophy permanently on display. That was something that we couldn't do in the past just because of space constraints. We have a variety of different other Brickyard 400 items on display that we look to rotate in that display case. But then we also have an interactive that will go through all 31 runnings, but 30 anniversary of the Brickyard. So then you can go back. So if you're a Tony Stewart fan, you can look at 2005 or 2008. If you're a Gordon fan, you can look within his 5 years, things like that. So that's from a permanent standpoint. But like I said, we'll rotate that case and display other items, whether they be on loan or from our collection. What I'm really excited about, one of our 3 temporary galleries that we have in the museum, or rotating galleries. One of them is called the Feature Hall Gallery, and it will highlight 8 Brickyard 400 winners, which is the first time we've ever had that many Brickyard 400 winners in one area. So we have kind of teased the vehicles, so it's not a surprise what you'll see when guests walk into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. But I think it's going to be great. We'll have representation of Jeff Gordon and Earnhardt and Johnson and Stewart and Keselowski and Labonte, Harvick. So it's going to be exciting to see not only the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and 500 items that we have, but also the 400 items on display.
Sure. Take a moment. You have a long history there. I know you've been there for a long time. Tell us about how the advancement of Jason Van Sickle. I mean, curation is pretty interesting. Education now added to that. So, I'm obviously interested in that because of our children's book that we have published a couple of years ago. I'm very interested in the education portion. Tell us about your history there, Jason.
Yeah, so I've been at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. I've been fortunate enough to be here since 2011. I started when I was an undergrad, going to school. I started as a tour guide and a docent, in the areas. I had some great people around me, whether they be the docents, that I always had an interest in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. My father and grandfather were into hot rodding and hot rods and muscle cars and things like that. So I didn't really have a racing background per se, but I've been around automobiles my entire life. And always had a kind of interest in the history side of them, with the mechanical and obviously enjoying old cars. So as I grew up and obviously being from Indianapolis, the Speedway is such it's the cultural identity of the state. When you think about the race and the track and how its legacy and history has impacted not only our state, but the United States and the world to some level. So I was interested in learning more about the history, really fascinated with the early days, the building of the track in 1909, all the way really to World War II is my core interest. But obviously I enjoy all 116 years history of the Speedway. But I was fortunate enough to be hired on as a part-time role, and lucky enough, there's a bit of hard work and right place, right time type situation, and once I graduated, I was able to be signed on for a full-time position, and I worked under Ellen Byerly at the time, and obviously worked alongside Donald, which was invaluable when it comes to that opportunity and being able to ask him any question at any time and things like that, pick his brain. And then from there, I'm nearing 10 years full time in June. June. So just kind of worked my way up, and been fortunate enough after COVID, pretty much at the end of 21, I oversaw the vehicles, and then I oversaw all the collection after COVID. And then I added the education component to it, which is exciting, and something that we have added to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, which you didn't see before for the most part. We hired a great education director, Jacob Hollos, who started with us midsummer last year, but hit the ground running. And you'll see in reality with things like the Innovation Workshop and some of the other education components that we will introduce later on after opening. So it's been a great time, great opportunity, met some great people. But also, I mean, it's pretty amazing to be part of this process of not only an 18-month construction, but also the 4+ years of planning that got us to this moment that we're embarking on.
I have to tell you, a lot of people that I've talked to over the last year and a half, the question was, are they really going to finish in April for next year? I was always the big, because it's such a giant undertaking. I mean, you've totally recreated the place. I mean, the thing it wasn't secret, but it was always kind of away from public view, was the basement. And that's part of what you're using now too, right? I mean, that's all been redone.
Yeah. So I don't come from really a construction background, but obviously our partners at Shield Sexton have been a great partner on this journey, if you will. And then JRA from the exhibition design out of Cincinnati. Without them, we wouldn't be able to be in this position that we're in right now. They have reminded us that, this is a very tight timeline. And it is without a lot of hard work and dedication to get us to this point, because there were a lot of people the idea of a renovated museum has been the better part of 10 years. And, there was always different things that have come out, and plans have come and gone. And obviously the team that we have here internally now allowed us to get to that point. But, you in construction, you really don't get the opportunity to say that you're on time and under budget, which we are, which is very rare. I found that out. So, sure. And also that also is a applause for the public support that we received. I mean, we are a separate 501c3 from IMS and Penske Entertainment and Roger. So we operate the museum. So this renovation and capital campaign to fundraise this $60 million renovation has come from the museum. So we have those supporters and partners at various different levels, whether it be high donors or even someone who has given. There's many race fans who have given, $5, $10, $15, which that is what they want to be. That's what they have to offer to be a part of this, and that's very special to us too.
Back in 1956. When the museum first opened, I'm told there was like 12 cars. Just a ballpark. I won't hold you to this, but how many cars do you think are on display in the new configuration that we'll see next week?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, the original museum on the corner, it was a relatively small building, and it grew to a collection of 12 vehicles. We have on display. It's been a while since I counted, but we have over 50 cars on display right now. When you add things like the Penske Gallery and things like that, and I think the biggest thing is how we display them. That will be the thing I think people take away with, because in some cases people remember the old museum as kind of being packed and crowded. And in theory, there could have been a couple more cars on display, but not too many more than what we display now. How we have the cars displayed and lighted is a way that really gives purpose and kind of reverence to the artifact, to the item, the vehicle that their hero drove to victory or victories at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Now, there's a certain number of cars that were kind of, staples at the museum over the years. The Ray Haroon car and some of the winning cars over the years. Will we still see some of those same cars displayed?
Oh yeah, I mean those are core to the mission and obviously the Indianapolis Motor Speedway history. So we have 2 levels of winning Indianapolis 500 vehicles that will rotate between the levels. Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier the basement now is public area, which was off limits for so long, or an exclusive tour. So the what we now are calling the lower level, but many diehard race fans will probably still call the basement at some level. We have the temporary galleries. That's where the NASCARs will be when we open. As I mentioned, 12 Indianapolis 500 winning cars down there. We have a temporary exhibition called Best of the Best, presented by Key Bank, which honors the 4-time winners. So we have one example of each of their winning cars. 3 of the 4th winning car, and then Elio, because that chassis is still being competed with at the Speedway, we have his first. And then with the Penske Gallery, obviously there's an additional 6 vehicles there. So we still have the artifacts and vehicles on display, and a lot of your favorites will be on display. And then the good thing too is we look to rotate the vehicles. So there be certain cars, like the Marvin Wasp, barring it needing to go to a offsite show, or say our restoration crew is doing maintenance or preventative maintenance, conservation on it. It typically will be on display, but the cars will rotate. So if you come to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway multiple times a year, we look to have something new for you and make it a destination you want to come to multiple times a year.
How about we're talking with Jason Van Sickle. Jason is the Vice President of Curation and Education at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. How about the store? Like I always like walking to, even if I didn't buy anything, I love walking to the store, looking at the new T-shirt options. And is that still going to be part of the?
Yeah. So what's interesting with the trackside gift shop that we housed is we reconfigured the front of the entryway, if you will. If you remember how the old museum was, you walked in, you went straight to buy your ticket, or on either side of you, there was 2 separate but same gift shop from IMS. Now that is all centralized on the east side of the building, so the right-hand side of that part of the museum. So we will have a gift shop. The gift shop is owned and operated by IMS, so it is a separate entity from the museum. But we look to develop more and more museum merchandise that you'll be able to buy, in addition to the great stuff that IMS is putting out over the last few years. You will be able to go to the gift shop without going to the museum. So there's still that opportunity for race fans. But if you go through the museum, you exit through the gift shop. So there is that opportunity to definitely check out the museum, whether you just want to stop in for something quick, for a gift or yourself, or after your time in the museum, you'll go through the gift shop to check out what they have to offer.
Do you have a personal favorite display or something that's different that you feel like, wow, that's really great, fans are going to love it? What do you have?
Yeah, I mean, with the new museum, there's something for everyone, really. And whether it's the Gasoline Alley Gallery, which is the first area that you'll walk into, we have 7 garages that you'll see on your right that will go through the history, the evolution of the Speedway. On the opposite side of that, we have 7 display cases in the same facade that will highlight the different eras of the Speedway, really tell the story from the high level of the track's history. So I think people will really get a good basis of what the history of the Speedway is. And then they go right into the starting line gallery, which is a more immersive presentation. We've had a lot of people ask, will there be a theater? Do you have the theater still? We don't have a sit-down theater like you may be used to.
Sure.
What we have is we recreated the starting line in obviously a smaller scale. So when you walk in, you'll see on either side of you, it's scenically dressed as the outside grandstand, the inside grandstands, all the start finish line, pagoda, things like that. And then there'll be 3 show cars in front of you. Those show cars are wrapped in the current front row. So obviously it's the Penske sweep from 2024, but depending on who's on the front row come this 500, we'll look to update that. But then you'll see a large 20-foot wide by 80-foot long LED video board that goes in front of you and then curves above you. And that plays a 6-minute presentation on what it feels like to be here during the pre-race ceremonies. It starts with the crew members entering the garage at 5 a.m. to the cannon going off, through all the pomp and ceremonies and the celebrations leading up and ending pretty much at the green flag. So it's a way to get people excited and understand kind of that emotional part of the portions of the day before the race. And then you exit there and you go on your own to the various different areas. So those are two areas. I think it's on the front end of your museum experience, but people really will be blown away by. And then also we have the qualifying zone, which is more hands-on learning, where we have things like simulators, pit stop challenge, a dissected car strategy challenge, and even driver fitness, reaction time and steering challenge. And then an area for younger kids under 5 to kind of soft play and start their fandom of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
So this was a favorite of mine. I don't know that it's going to continue, because I noticed last year they were, I think the same ones that were in the museum were up in the Holman Terrace Club suite. The car racing simulators. Are we still going to have any racing simulator options?
We will. We've really upgraded our offerings. The previous ones that we had were they were good for what we had at the time. They were Forza 7 or 5, whatever had the IndyCar, and then an Xbox and things like that. We've upgraded. We partnered with SimCraft, which is a sim developer out of just outside of Atlanta, and they have I think they're sponsored. They have a lot of drivers, a lot of former or hopefully potential IndyCar drivers like Scott Pruitt, Jimmy Johnson as their sponsored, Sebastian Oliver Weldon or one of their sponsored drivers. But it is a motion rig, so there will be a yaw factor, so the seat will move. It won't beat you up, but it will move. And obviously, we utilize the iRacing software to virtually give guests a chance to qualify, 4-lap qualifying for the Indianapolis 500. So we've had a lot of people so far go through it, and we've tuned it to be not overly difficult because we don't want that option. But also give kind of a feeling of what it feels like. So we had some people on there today, and they took 4 laps, and they quickly said, "Man, what do you think about doing that for another 196 laps?" Things like that. So we have 6 of those, and we also have one that we converted to be ADA compatible with hand controls and things like that. So we've invested a lot in the simulators, and I think that's going to be a great area for people to experience.
So open to the public on Wednesday. Are you expecting a large crowd? I mean, I'm going to be there, but I don't know if that means anything. But are you expecting a good turnout? I mean, middle of the week, obviously weekend would be bigger, but what are you guys thinking? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for, obviously during the middle of the week is going to be one thing. I am looking at the weather. But obviously, Indianapolis in Indiana, the weather can change every second, or at least
like Connecticut every 5 minutes, right?
Yeah. So, we look for a big turnout starting at 10:30 on Wednesday. We have our opening ceremonies. So our president Joe Hale will make some short remarks. Then we'll also have our former board chair who started this project, Rob Dyson, make some remarks. Our current board chair Chuck Jones will make a few remarks. We have Governor Braun that will be here and make some remarks. A few other dignitaries and from the Taos Speedway, obviously IMS. Roger will make some remarks too. And once those are done, that brief ceremony, we will cut the ribbon and open it, and then we'll be back to being open 363 days a year, like people remember.
That's so good. I gotta tell you, I mean, I'm giddy about this. I miss that place so much. And I'm a creature of habit, so I'm generally not good with a lot of change. But I'm going in with an open mind. I'm really excited about it, and I think it's going to be a wonderful experience. And I can't wait. And thank you guys for doing such a great job and getting there on time and being ready for folks. And it'll be a great May. Oh my goodness, you'll have so many people going to the museum in May. It'll be insane.
Yeah, I mean, we are looking forward to a pretty busy May, and one thing that we are directing people to is our website at our imsmuseum.org, where you can purchase tickets in advance, and we are going through a time ticketing entry where you select the time that you want to enter. So if you want to show up at 2:30, you would select that. Now you have as much time inside the museum as you want. You can stay there.
Oh, good. I was wondering about that.
Yeah. So it's not like you're timed once you're in there, but it's really to help with throughput. And we will have some walk-ups. Obviously, it just depends on how the pre-sale tickets have. But I am saying, definitely in May, tickets are available now. You definitely want to check them out, buy them in advance, make sure that you can get in, because I do think whether it's qualifying for the Sonoso Grand Prix or race day or carb day or the day after, it's going to be quite busy with people wanting to see the new museum. So make sure you get your tickets in advance.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for taking time. I can't imagine how busy you guys are right now. So it means a lot that you would take time. And again, I'm grateful for all the work that you've done, and I'm really excited about walking through those doors Wednesday. I can't wait. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, and look forward to seeing you on Wednesday.
Okay. Jason Van Sickle, everybody. All right. Hey, that's it. That's a wrap for us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tony D, for being on, Tony Donahue earlier. And we're going to be, let's see, next Wednesday, we may have some surprises for you for next Wednesday's show. So we will be here. We'll be here at 4:00 as we are every week. And then please share this with your friends, relatives, associate, neighbors. Go to our website, thepitsareopen.com. Please sign up for our newsletter. It helps us a lot. And again, whatever you're watching on, whatever platform, like, comment, share. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. It helps us a great deal. And especially to all our friends on TikTok, thank you for watching. Alex, great show as always. Thank you, my friend. And have a good rest of your week. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.